Oscar Valdes. Oscar, let me read to you just a little bit about him. Oscar's owned and operated many different types of commercial real estate, which allows you to benefit from his experiences as his bio and first-hand knowledge. Oscar's very unique perspective will meet the needs of both buyers and sellers. He has worked with many different asset classes and investment sales, as well as landlord-tenant representation. He's a Miami native with strong ties to the local real estate industry. He's acquired, rehabbed, managed, and sold millions of dollars of office, multifamily, warehouses, and mixed-use buildings in South Florida. He's negotiated millions of dollars of office and retail leases. He has over 2 decades of real estate investment and sales experience. He's an expert in office, multifamily, and mixed-use asset classes. He's a member of the Realtors Association of Greater Miami and the Beaches, member of KW Commercial, Florida Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors, and he has the designations of the Certified Real Estate Consultant, the CIC, and the prestigious National Commercial Real Estate Advisor, which is our NCREA advisor designation as well. So what a background of wealth and knowledge with Oscar, huh? My goodness, Oscar. So take it away. Tell us again. Say hello and welcome.
Hi, I apologize for the bad lighting in here, by the way. And just walked into my office here and sat down and didn't realize how bad the lighting was. It's great to be here. It's great to be here and share whatever I can with you all. It's been a great experience for me meeting Michael and just picking his brain, if you will, for a lot of knowledge. I have a lot of experience in commercial real estate from an owner's perspective. I've owned a lot of commercial real estate in my life and know a lot about tenant landlord representations, leases, things of that knowledge. But what I did not know was marketing, how to become a good marketer of myself, if you will, to try and draw and attract sellers of commercial real estate. And Michael's been an integral part in my development of that.
Oh, thank you, Oscar. And Oscar came to us. I believe he found us online, and
That's right.
Oscar is an investor, as you can tell from years from his bio. But like he said, he just recently got licensed. Is that correct, Oscar?
Yeah, I got licensed a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so a year and a half ago, and he recently hung his license or activated it and started listing and selling here. How long ago? How's it been? How long has it been for that?
It's been less than a year.
Less than a year.
As far as actively, because I got my license going into the summertime, and I decided to take the summer off, if you will. So, I did some traveling and enjoyed myself before I dove into it. And I'm a strong believer of education. So when I decided to jump in, I did a lot of research to see if I could find the proper coach for me. And through that research, I discovered Michael. So Michael was preaching something that really it rung true to me as an owner, because as an owner, many times I've had every single brokerage firm call on me, and it's always the same line. Are you interested in selling your building in the next 6 months? It was basically robotic. And what Michael taught was something that I had never heard this approach, which was the approach of the 1031 exchange, trading up, using the equity in your property to leverage that to build wealth. And once I heard that, I knew that was something that I had to really explore, because that is something that will catch the attention of the commercial real estate owner.
And you're right. He's right. We're all familiar with the commercial real estate broker, and when I first started, it was such a grind. It's the same thing. Hey, do you plan to sell anytime soon? I just drove by your property. I've got a buyer for it. It's such a grind. And so when I learned, because my mentor taught me this method, the grid system and the concept behind it, and it's such a refreshing way to get business, because it's consulting people instead of selling people, and it's coming from a position of value instead of asking. Kind of like what Sandy was talking about with the social media thing. And you had shared with me a story about how you, we didn't role play any of this either, so hopefully you remember this, about how you were talking with somebody, and I don't remember the specifics now because it's been several weeks, about this concept, and you met with them, and you asked them a question, and that one question I think was, they said something about one or two properties, and you said, are those properties free and clear? And they said yes. And I don't remember what came from that or anything. So tell us about that.
Well, yeah, this is a property listing that I acquired through using your method. The first thing that we explored when we got into it was going through your sphere of influence, go through your contacts, people you know, and through that I did get several listings. One of them, I was showing the property, and I started having a conversation with the person, basically just probing a little bit, asking if they had any other properties, and he did say he had two properties, a 5-unit and a 3-unit. I asked him if he has any debt on the properties. He said no, he owes them free and clear. I gave him the cringe look. I just gave him the "why would you do that" type of look. He asked me, what do you mean? And I basically said something I learned from you. Just every single day that goes by that you don't have any debt on those properties, you are losing money. And he looked at me like if I was crazy, and I went on to explain to him that just all that equity that he has in there, he could be building a portfolio of properties, just even if he leveraged them 50%. And he was very interested. We continued speaking I followed up with him. He told me to follow up with him the following week. Met with him the week after that, did an analysis of his properties, just basically the analysis that you taught me, and showing him what he could do with the equity in those properties if he 1031 exchanged it for a property 3 times in this case, and basically laid it out for him on a 5-year, 10-year basis, and in 10 years he was going to have it was $550,000 that he has in equity right now in those 2 properties, and it would have been in 10 years close to $10 million what he would have had in real estate in value of it in his real estate portfolio. So I mean, he said fine, he wants to move forward and give me the listings of those 2 properties. So I'm actively now listing those properties and looking for another one at the same time for him. So that was just from one conversation and probing and using the techniques that I learned.
Yeah, that's awesome, Oscar. And one of the things, Oscar's a coaching client. He has been for quite some time, and that's one of the things that I love about Oscar is he'll send me these spreadsheets or some things that you're working on from the software that we give you in the 3-day class, and he's not just explaining. He's actually that why they're losing money when they're doing that. He's actually showing them, right? You've actually shown them how to improve. Is that correct?
That's correct. What I do is I take a property that we have here in the office and I use it for comparison. And I give them an analysis. I say you have this much, you have X amount of, you have $500,000 in equity, and I plug it into the spreadsheets. I've modified the spreadsheets, and I show them, in 5 years, basically with a 3% appreciation in value, the debt pay down, the value of the depreciation, and the savings of their income taxes. I add it all in 5 years compared to what they're currently achieving with their property. And the numbers they're eye-opening for them. It really, it's one thing to say it to them, but when you show it to them, when you show them the actual numbers, you get the same response. I've already done 2 of these. This is the second one that I do. Another one was on a piece of vacant land, but it was the same response. When you put the numbers in front of them, they really don't realize how much money they're losing. Everyone gets into a very comfortable place, with their real estate investments because they're getting their monthly income and they're comfortable operating the property that they have, and they never really realize how much money they're leaving on the table by not being active and doing analyses every 2 or 3 years on their properties to see if that's a better time for them to move.
So if you're watching this and you haven't taken a 1-day class, you should take a 1-day class first, okay? And then if you are watching this and you've taken a 1-day course but you haven't taken the 3-day course, you should take the 3-day course. And these are the things that we talk about really in the 3-day course. We'll touch on them in a 1-day, but we just don't have much time to really get in depth where we do in the 3-day. This is what Oscar's talking about. So if you're kind of going, what, huh? That's what you need to do. And if you've already done those things, then the next thing for you would be to maybe get some help with a coach or something like that. because what that does, it gives you the ability to, when you have these conversations and you meet somebody, now what? Well, now what you do is you present, and if you present right, boom, you get business, and that's kind of what is happening here. So in case you're not following any of that, I wanted to elaborate on that. So, and Oscar, so now, what would be a tip? What would be, I always like to ask the question, what would be one tip that you would have for somebody if you're that's watching that's never, they want to add commercial to their business, maybe they're in residential right now. What would you suggest on how they would go about doing that?
It's funny. I have a lot of friends in residential, and a lot of people make the mistake of trying to just dive into commercial. And then I get the phone calls all the time. They're asking me cap rates and things of this nature. They have no idea what it is. The commercial real estate world in that respect, and I can smell it out because I'm an owner as well. Just if you don't know what you're talking about, I mean, I'll shut you down in a second. There's no, I mean, that's always been my philosophy. In commercial real estate, it's about numbers, and it's about just basically net operating income. How far will my money take me as far as return on investment with my money? It's very number centric. So if you do not know that, the number one thing you have to do is get educated before you do anything else. I don't know how you do it or which route you choose to do, but you have to have a good grasp of the numbers of commercial real estate to even get started on it. Because residential real estate agents do have, they have the ability to sell and market somewhat, but they don't have the grasp of the numbers. And that's the biggest thing. You've got to get educated on basically the numbers of the commercial real estate world.
Awesome. And Oscar, you did find us online. Is that right?
I did. I found you online just searching for coaching programs, and I interviewed several, and I had an interview with you, and I just liked the different approach that you had as far as separating yourself from all the other commercial realtors.
That approach, by the way, you guys, I'm telling you, it's still to this day it's not a common. Here you have an owner who owns a bunch of real estate and has for years, who's now a real estate agent that's telling you the same thing that I've been telling you for a long time, and that is that this approach is unique. You've got to do it, though. You have to go do the work and have the conversations. But if you do, you can absolutely explode. I did it as well. Several other people are doing it. It's still work. It's WORK. This is not hitting the lottery and sitting on easy street. Unfortunately, it's funny because I had a call the other day. It was actually a month or so ago, and she was like, kind of at the end of the call, towards the end, she was like, "Oh, okay." And so I said, "Well, what's the matter? Lighten up, because no one's going to respond to that, right?" And she said, "Oh, well, I was just hoping you would have just like a magic bullet for me." I don't have any magic bullets, guys. I don't have them. I just don't. We have strategies that are unique and different, like what Oscar's telling you, but you have to go out and apply. And one of the things that Oscar did is you found this online, and then you ordered, I think you ordered a 3-day online. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I ordered the 3-day course online. I did it, and then I actually flew out to meet with you and do the 1-day.
Right. So you ordered a 3-day online, and then you started coaching. You entered our coaching program, which includes a 1-day full business meeting where we get together and you got to meet my wife and enjoy great food, right?
I did. That's great.
And we
thank you very much.
Yeah. No, thank you. And we planned out your day. And you actually went to a 1-day after the 3-day. Tell me a little bit about your experience with the 3-day online versus, do you wish you would have taken it live? What would be the difference between? I always like to ask that question. Did you like it online versus off? Would you rather have been live?
No, I would rather have been live. No doubt about it, because you don't. And I've done lots of trainings. I'm with Keller Williams, so I've done a lot of training, and just there's a lot more value that you get from going to a live event, because it's not only what you're teaching. There's a lot of people that have different experiences. I believe that you get more from negative experiences than from positive, if you will. You learn more from the mistakes than you do from from your achievements. So you get that a lot. You get the person that says, "Yeah, I made the mistake of doing this," I did this wrong, and there's just in a live setting, you get a lot more out of that than you would out of the CDs. The CDs are great. You know, we're 4,000 miles apart, so it makes it a little bit difficult to get out there when you got to work. But I really would like to, even though I've been through the training, I would still really like to get out there and do a 3-day, just to be around it, and you know, share experiences.
Well, okay, yeah, that's so true, and it's another reason why we're doing this is because there's nothing like the 3-day feeling. For those of you who've been through it, you get it. You understand that when you're in the same room for 3 days with the same people. Sure, there's some that we get annoyed with maybe, but we also bond a lot with each other, and it's kind of like, okay, now it's over. I want more. I want more, and so we're trying to do this with this Hangout. We're trying to make it so that we can plug you together more. So thanks for doing that, sharing that, Oscar. Would you have any other suggestions for somebody who wants to add or do more commercial real estate?
I mean, the one thing is consistency, and that was a big part of what we did when I went out to California. That we basically planned my schedule so that I could fit every single day. I could time block and fit everything that I needed to do within the day. And then you got to be consistent. You got to make your phone calls. You got to stick to your plan. That's the most important thing. You got to be consistent.
And one thing that happened with Oscar, one of the first things I do when I start coaching somebody is I actually slow them down. And what I mean by that is I'll say, let's look at what's in front of you that you're probably missing out on, and let's focus in on that. And Oscar, that was really where we started, and because he'd been around in Florida for such a long time in Miami, he owned a bunch of real estate. He knew, so he has such a big sphere of influence and contacts, and people love him. I mean, what's not to love about the guy? You can tell he's just a great guy all the way around. And he's better looking than I am too.
I don't know about that. Thank you, anyways.
Yeah, and when he wanted to go like the average person, and we kind of pulled back and said, well, let's slow down and let's look at your people that you know first, and let's put them together in some sort of database system. And remember how you kind of pushed back a little bit with that.
I did, because I've built a list of contacts I have just in my sphere of influence, if you will. Not my sphere of influence, but just people that I know, have done business with, have somewhat of a relationship with. That alone was about 800 people, 700 or 800 people, and I had never called on them for anything. I just didn't. I always like to separate. I didn't like to be the person that calls. I felt like I was asking for favors. And you helped me get over that. You explained to me that it's not really asking them for favors. They're going to have a need for real estate at some point, and they'd rather send it to someone that they know than just a complete stranger. And once I was able to make that, get over that obstacle, I just started banging the phones, and sure enough, business came from it.
Yeah, and we've all had, the reality with that is that there's a lot of bad agents that are out there, and I think we all agree with that. And if you don't reach out and help this person that you care about or know with their transactions, they could end up in the hands of this bad agent. And is that what you want? And the answer to that is probably no. You don't want that. You want them working with you. And so if you keep that mindset, a lot of times it'll help you realize that you're not bothering people. You are helping them. And just keep that in mind, because it's real important in terms of going out and getting business on a regular basis. Oscar, one of the other things that you did was we talk about this grid concept, which is a way of getting business that is unique, that most of you watching are familiar with. One of the things that Oscar did was he deviated a little bit from that. So he built his grid, but then he went over here and kind of started with this other smaller grid, almost to get some practice in were the words that you use. Tell us about that.
Well, what I did is I focused on an area that I know, pretty well, but instead of focusing on the larger properties, which I did, with the larger properties, which are $1 million and up. I put a smaller, a grid basically with properties that were 100 to $500,000, and I began there. I just started pounding the phones and speaking with people, because in my mind, the way that I viewed it was, I don't care if I don't get those listings. Those listings were going to be a nuisance anyways if I did get them. So I used that part of the grid as the way of me to sharpen my scripts when I call. I treated them as if it was a bigger client that I was trying to call on, and I just used that to get the kinks out of my scripts. And I did that, and I just practiced, and through that I was able to get comfortable with my scripts, so that I can approach the bigger owners as far as trying to get the listings. So that's the approach that I took with it, and it worked for me.
Yeah. So see, what happens is when we loosen up and don't stress so much and treat it as practice like that, then it's well, it doesn't matter, right? And so we have a tendency to get more business when we're doing that. And so I thought that was a pretty cool approach, and it worked obviously for Oscar. Oscar, I'm really proud of. It's a pleasure to be in business with you. He's one of these guys that asks a question and then does what you suggest. And sure, he pushes back a little bit like everybody does, but at the end of the day, he usually says, okay, I know that you've had success, so I'm going to listen to you and follow what you suggest. And that's just so refreshing, because when people, it's frustrating, frankly, when somebody asks you, hey, what do you think? And you say, well, I think we should do it this way, and they don't do it, and then they come back later and ask other questions. It's very frustrating. So it's nice having people like Oscar that actually go out and implement, because guess what? Oscar's having success, and a lot of success. You don't realize this is the amount of success you're having in a short period of time. Oscar's going to just absolutely explode and kill it in Miami, and I can't wait to come out and spend some time with you and your family, with my family out in Miami, and it's so beautiful over there. And
I'm looking forward to it. We'll do a little boating. Get on the boat. Get out on the water.
Yeah, that sounds great. Tell us about the cap rates in Miami. What are they, roughly?
It's interesting, and I know that it's a little bit different in California, but I was surprised in last week's Hangout. Just the cap rates are much better in Miami than they are in LA. These, the properties that I'm selling now are, and I'm obviously on the seller side and trying to get the most for him, and they're above 7%. A cap rate on a multifamily building here will be 6.5, with the potential to be at 9 or 10, in the first 2 years.
Wow.
We get much better cap rates here than out in California.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've seen some of the values and things, and that I just can't imagine it staying like that. Really can't. But we talk about.
Been like that for a while.
What's that?
It's been like that for a while. It's just, it seems Miami hasn't caught up with the other big cities like New York and Los Angeles and all that for some reason. I'm not sure why. But you are getting a lot of foreign investment now to Miami, so it might slow down in the near future.
Sounds like a lot of upside potential.
It sure is. It sure is.
All right. Well, Oscar, Oscar's contact information is there on the website, on the Facebook page, on the Hangout. I believe but just say your telephone number and your email address.
It's O Valdes, VALDES, @kw.com, and my phone number is 305-306 SOLD, SOLD. Easy to remember. Thank you for that, Michael, by the way. It was you that asked, that got me to look for that.
Well, thank you, Oscar. I appreciate your time very much. I know how busy you are.
No, my pleasure. If anyone has anything, if they're ever going to be down in Miami, any information they need, or if they have anyone looking for anything, it'd be my pleasure to help them out.
We've talked about referrals and things like that. So you take referrals for residential and commercial. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. That's correct.
Awesome. So send any referrals your way to Oscar, or any needs you have in the Miami, Florida area. Any final closing comments for you, Oscar?
Well, like I said, I'm a big believer in education, and that's why I come to the Hangouts. I believe that you can get a lot from just being around, immersing yourself around people that of like mind that are trying to achieve the same thing. So just anyone that is thinking of getting into commercial, I think Michael's a great starting point. He's very good. He's very honest. So I appreciate everything that he's done for me. So I would suggest to anyone that if this is something you're serious about, really take a good look at joining the program with Michael.